I believe life is an exquisite opportunity to explore all facets of who we get to be, who we are not, and who we choose to create ourselves to be. I believe life is happening for us. It's a wild and exciting adventure, and around every corner, we get to dive in and explore how or why things are showing up for us the way they are. From the people, the places, the patterns, and even the situations. It's our own healing adventure. Imagine, who will you choose to be in the midst of all the highs and all the lows? You get to say how life goes. You first have to be aware of why and how it's showing up for you. Consider, life gives you the opportunity to mold, shape, and expand into your greatest self. Come with me on this journey where I explore various aspects of my own life and how I tackle my own healing adventures and what I learned from them. Maybe what I have to share could make a difference for you or someone else. Welcome to Life's Healing Adventures. I'm your host, Tara Michelle. Welcome back to Life's Healing Adventures. I'm Tara Michelle, and I'm really excited to introduce an incredible guest and dear friend, Kinde Malott. We'll be talking about health and fitness today and the importance of the spiritual component when wanting to transform your body. Kinde is a passionate nutritionist and fitness coach dedicated to helping women lose body fat, build muscle, and achieve lasting health through sustainable habits. With a holistic approach that focuses on properly fueling your body, lifting weights, and prioritizing a growth mindset, she aims to empower women to reclaim their health and vitality so they can feel strong and sexy in their body for lives. I said body for lives, in their body for life. Kinde worked as a nurse for 6 years after experiencing the pitfalls of fad diets, we all know that, and unsustainable fitness programs herself. She realized the importance of a balanced approach that integrates seamlessly into daily life. She witnessed firsthand the struggles that many of us women actually face when we're trying to balance our health goals along with our busy lives and the gap that's between the medical field and the fitness space. So Kinde left her career as a nurse and made women's holistic body transformation her mission. So I'm excited to bring her onto the show today, and you'll hear what we talk about. A lot of it is incorporating my journey that I've been on with her over the last 6 months. And there has been a huge spiritual component to that. And so I'm going to let y'all listen in on the show. And here we go. Let's just jump right into this. Kinde Malott coming at you hot. I
Coming
love
at
that
you
you
hot.
always say that. Yeah. I love that that's always your opening line. Like when you come on Facebook and stuff, I'm like, yeah, girl, go. I just want to say thank you to all of you joining this episode. I'm really excited about this episode because I am going to be talking with my awesome trainer and dear friend, Kinde Malott. We met, oh gosh, I guess it's maybe going on 2 years ago now. We met through our kids were at a similar, well, they were at the same school, and that's how I met her. And she came rolling in, her and her hubby and all of her kids looking like these amazing, like super fit rock stars. And I was like, who the fuck is that? I was like, wow. And then when I learned that you were friends with, Carla and Alexis and all these people, and everybody's looking all fit, and I'm like, what do they do? And then I found out that you were a trainer. And then I kept watching, I would just watch the process and watch you. And over time, I was like, I need to hire her. And because I found out that you had this online program. And I found out that everybody had been working with you. And then I remember Carla was like, her workouts are so hard. And I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to do it. And then when I saw what you did, I was like, okay, I can do that. I can easily do that. But I wanted to bring you on here because this journey of health and well-being for me has been really tough, especially moving through menopause and now that I'm on the other side of that. But I think as women, we're always stressed about our body image, and we're always stressed about how we look, and this, that, and size and weight and inches and weight. Like we're constantly, it's just this journey. And I feel culturally we have a lot against us. You
Mhm.
need to look a certain way, you got to be this way, and try this diet and that diet. And I know you and I have had some really, not only incredible and profound conversations just with my own breakdowns around my health and fitness, and we'll get into that a little later when I came on the call pissed off and ready to just be a dick. And because I was in my head of like, this is like, I don't want to do this. This is so hard. Only to come to my own, coming to Jesus moment that I wasn't in it the way I needed to be in it because I was looking at, well, we'll get to that. But the thing that you and I were talking about the other night is really the spiritual component and
Hmm.
health and well-being. And and I'll let you introduce yourself. I mean, I did the introduction in the beginning, but I'm going to let you, just share a little bit more about you, your background, how you came to be, and really what we'll be talking about, everybody, is this spiritual component to your health and well being and how they really are synergistic. It's not just about, you know, eating and diet and exercise. It's not about that. There's so much more that goes into this process because it's an internal process which then
Hmm.
your outside reflects. So I'm going to stop talking and let you talk. But yeah, everybody, Kinde Malott, she's amazing. Love her so much. And hi, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm seriously just so excited. This is, I mean, obviously my passion, but this specific topic is my favorite.
Yeah,
So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited. So
thank you.
I think my initial journey, like probably a lot of women, did my first diet when I was 15. And, it was me and my sister just dinking around. And I remember like sneaking into the kitchen and like eating a cookie. And she was like, hey, just because no one sees you eating those calories doesn't mean they don't count. And so it was
Mhm.
just like that's when it all really started for me. And I was an athlete and I was pretty fit,
Did
but
she really
still,
say that? Did she really say eating those calories?
oh yeah, she's like,
Oh
just
my
'cause no
God.
one sees those doesn't mean they don't count because I
Oh
was
my
sneaking,
God.
like the
Yeah.
the the sneaking of like, hey, we're on this diet together, and so the diets just cause so much problems, so many problems, and so that was like the first like real memory I have of dieting, and like it's a joke we tell now, but it was a thing.
Mhm.
So that and I was fit and I was athletic and still just sucked into that like body image and dieting and all of that shenanigans at such a young age, like I think a lot of us are.
Yeah.
um and then after graduation you don't play sports anymore, and I started drinking to fill that gap. And there's a lot of identity things that went on and a lot of just like trying to find myself through societal expectations and not understanding that I could actually like create something that was actually aligned for me. And so the way that I coped with that, I think too, was drinking because I didn't know how to create a life that was truly mine. Um, and there's obviously was this big mission inside of me. So trying to like, ignore that was a lot of coping strategies. So I went on to like continue to diet for the next 10 years. And when I finally, decided to truly change, I stopped drinking. I then met Casey. I had been in like all of these horrible relationships because of my own self-worth issues, and I was recreating patterns.
Yeah.
When I woke up and realized like what I was doing to myself, I was like, everything is going to change starting now. I like broke up with the last douchebag that I dated. I broke up with him. I changed my workout schedule. I committed to like actually being consistent, quit drinking, quit smoking, and like the rest of my life just like slowly began to unfold. And I was a nurse during that time too. So I was in the healthcare field watching doctors tell people to fast and cut calories and do more cardio. And I myself couldn't get it together with those concepts and couldn't find myself in my life. And so like that's kind of like the path that I went on. And then over the last like whatever it's been, 12 years now, since then, like just like became an entirely different person. I have an entirely different life. And as I've gotten older, I've actually gotten healthier. And I think it's the most
Amazing.
mind-blowing thing that it's hard to put words to, but over the course of the last 12 years, there's been like multiple transformations for myself, just within my food, the way that I work out, the seasons I've went through with having kids and going through like really tough things, you know, miscarriages and deployments for Casey and my own healing journey. And I've been able to hang on to my self-care routines, which are reflected through what my body looks like. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's positioned that way for me because when I didn't have control of that, I didn't have control of my life. And when I took control of that, everything began to unfold in a way that was actually authentic and allowed for me to find myself, allowed for healing, and allowed for me to actually just learn how to value myself. And so, through all the hard things I've been through in the last 12 years, even just like healing wise and just like things that life throws at you,
Yeah.
me hanging on to my self-care, like my nutrition and my fitness habits,
Yeah.
that's what anchored me in to be able to hold all the things that I've been able to hold. And
I just want to say I love so much of what you are sharing and what you're talking about. And the very first thing that triggered for me was when you talked about coming out of school, you were an athlete, you're dieting at 15 years old, which, yeah, like we have all these stupid teen magazines in front of us and TV saying you're supposed to look like this. And I think I'm quite a few years older than you, but it's still like, you know, babes in bathing suits on TV, and your body is supposed to be this way. And if you're an athlete, then you definitely are supposed to look this way. And when we come out of school, we have no idea who we are. And you talked about really not understanding who you were and what was next and how you were coping with that with alcohol. And same. Like I'm coming out of school, I'm not blonde haired, I'm not blue eyed, I'm not what media was saying I should look like. I went to a predominantly white school. I'm dating some surfer guy who's like the love of my life, and I'm like, I just want to fit however he wants me to look, and I'm wearing things that I think he wants me to wear. And it's like we are just babies, right? And we have no concept. And what I love about the topic we're going to talk about the spiritual piece, which I think so much of us parents now focus on with our kids today, that was not the focus then. You're
mm-mm,
not learning how to love yourself then. You're not learning about self-worth then. And I see
mm-mm,
my child struggling with body image right now and his self worth. And this morning I'm telling him, hugging him, saying, "Hey, there's nothing you have to hide. You are perfect, beautiful, and amazing just the way you are." And nobody
mm-hmm,
was telling us that then. It was, you need to fit into this cute little skirt and this little dress, and you need to dance like Britney Spears, and you need to look like this and up, and otherwise you're nothing, right? I hate to say it that way, but I feel like that was constantly being pumped into us at that time.
mm-hmm,
And when you're 18 and 17 years old, graduating, and you're supposed to be an adult now, your brain's not fully developed and you have no concept of who you are. And to
mm-mm,
your point of saying, yeah, like I'm getting healthier and wiser as I get older. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
because we've had to go through all those trials and tribulations. But I just wanted to point that out because I think that's an important piece that is so missing in our world today. And I see what you guys are doing with your kids. You have beautiful children. And the things that you and Casey do that models really great behavior and really healthy behavior in who they are and who they're going to get to be and the head start that they'll have that we didn't get to have at that time.
mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
it's something that my mom always said to me too, was that we should always strive to be a little bit better than our parents or what we were given. Like she always had that mentality towards us. She was always saying that to us.
It's awesome.
And I do remember my mom a lot asking me, like, what do you need? And I didn't know, but I remember her a
Mm-hmm.
lot asking, what do you need? You got to figure out what you need. And I think, if anything, from a very young age, like I was always very anxious, very, um, I just could not calm down. I never could calm down. I was always in therapy from the time I was 7, and to the point of just like the healthcare system, like they did prescribe me my first like medication
Yep.
at that age.
Yeah.
Um, because no one knew what is wrong. Like, we don't know what's wrong with you. You got a stomach ache, here's a pill. And so I think that I had like an elevated level of kind of self-awareness at a young age too. I didn't know what it was, like what was wrong, but I kind of have had a little bit of that like instilled in me that like if I would have had more tools, if I would have had more answers, if, a lot of ifs, and just kind of took that and have channeled it into my business and into my relationships with my own kids. Well, because they are me, right? They're extensions of us. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I needed that, then they probably need that in some way as well. So those are things and experiences that I also try to bring forward, like as I'm coaching clients and coaching my kids, because it really just needs to be a whole person approach. We don't know the details of what's going on for each specific person, even though like for my kids, I've known them their whole lives. Like, I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're thinking.
No.
We can see their potential and we can see their expressed personality, and we have a feeling about, specifically what their gifts are. But I think question asking and really getting in there to see like what is the thought process in here so that we can better provide tools. And I think as parents who are self-aware too, knowing a little bit about what those needs are and what those tools are so that when they don't know, we can provide insight and help. Because I think that was the gap for myself, was my mom knew I needed something, but she didn't necessarily really know what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
back then there wasn't a lot of, you know, there wasn't a lot of tools and help. So
No,
yeah.
no.
So I think like my lived experience, like it, like there's so much purpose in all of how I live, I think, because of just the experiences that I've had that I've tried to take and help other people with.
Well, talk to me about the moment. So, you went into nursing and there you were being a nurse for 6 years and in the health industry, which is funny to me when you talked about drinking and smoking, because I find it just hilarious when I see doctors out behind the hospital smoking. And I'm just like, you're in the healthcare industry and you're out here having a cigarette.
At the
I just
smoke pit.
I know. And I get it. Like he probably is dealing with surgeries, he or she, and people are dying. Like I get that they have to cope with their own stuff as well because they're dealing with so much ailment and death, death. And you're, whatever they're dealing with. But I find it ironic. But tell me more about, or tell us more about the moment when you recognized that you wanted to make that shift from becoming a nurse to really helping people with their mind, body, spirit, and body through health and fitness and health and well being. Tell me what
Yeah.
that moment was like for you.
Life always gives you those nudges. So I think it was like a couple of different instances. And then I finally was like, okay, got it. Like, so the
What were
first,
your nudges? What was
so
it that
the,
you were maybe ignoring and then you recognized, oh shit, I got to listen to that.
yeah. So the first one was just like my realization that I got into the hospital and I was working and everyone was going out to smoke. And I was smoking, so I didn't really pick up on this at first. Um, so we go out, we smoke, we're talking, and I kind of start to realize that like none of these people have their shit together. I'm like, so wait a minute. We just like grow up and like make more money, but we don't like fix like like they were doing all the things I was doing. And I kind of, like you think that you grow up, you get married and you live happily ever after. Like you get it
Yep.
together, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and these people were like people, I mean, they're people, we're all people, right? I'm
Yes.
not judging, but I'm just simply recognizing that they're smoking, they're drinking, they're getting divorced, they're cheating on people, they're, like all these things that we're taught are not okay to do. These people in this profession that I'm striving to be so I can get there are doing these things. I'm thinking to myself, like, this is odd. Like, this So these things are all separate. I remember thinking that these are separate pieces of work that need to be done in life, because obviously just like getting the job isn't solving all these other problems that are happening, which
Yep.
was a really quiet insight that just like plops into my brain and then leaves. And then I
Mm,
just kind of go about my business. Um, I got another job thinking that would change it. Nope, got into that job, all the same shenanigans. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is very weird. Then I start noticing like all the same medications are being prescribed in almost the same order. And
and tell me which are those? Like at that time.
at that time, it was a blood pressure medication, a cholesterol medication, and then somewhere along the line, probably a pain medication and a diabetes medication.
That crazy?
Like, yes, like
Like
in some,
clockwork, right? Just
yes,
like in
yes,
this order. Yep.
yep.
So amazing. Yeah.
So I start to recognize that, and I kind of I'm on my diet and fitness journey. So I'm moving along the path, like doing this program and this program, and drinking and smoking in this program and this program, and like, I want to get the body. That's my goal, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so I'm going along my little journey, and then I get this job, and it's all the same. And I kind of am like waking up a little bit more as I go. Tried to go back and get, further education for healthcare to be a PA or be a NP or be something else. I couldn't do it. I couldn't focus. There was a session on a semester on, and I withdrew after this, and it was on insurance. And it was on how to bill to make the most money per patient, and how to like get like certain things had to be done a certain way. And I kind of just started to realize this is all for money. And I had just started CrossFit at that time. So now I'm like right before the part where I had just kind of woken up and decided like I'm going to change my life, like for real.
Mm.
So I kind of start to, I'm getting into CrossFit, and I'm kind of like really starting to see that medicine's kind of like for money. Not that these people are not helping people and doing an amazing job and living in their
Totally.
own, but just that the system is kind of like jacked up because
Yes.
it's very reactive.
It's very reactive. Yep.
And so those were some of the instances that I kind of like lived through, that I thought like this isn't right. And every time I tried to go back to school, I couldn't sit in the classrooms. Like I
Mm.
couldn't focus on that because I was thinking about, how do I solve this, or how do I prevent this, or how do I. And so that's kind of how I arrived at where, at the point where I just kind of knew like I couldn't take that any farther. And I left that job, and then I actually got fired from my very last nursing job. I got fired from because Cora couldn't breathe. And I was like, well, this is very ironic that like I'm supposed to go maintain other people's airways when my own kid's airway isn't secure. Like it was just I just had a lot of signs that were like pushing me into entrepreneurship. And my first business
I just got
was
chills.
actually,
I just got chills when you said that. Yeah.
yeah, my first business was actually a daycare. And my daycare curriculum was teaching kids, or just the culture was kids who were able to be hands-on in our house, like with helping make food, helping like understand like just food, even at like 18 months, 2 years old, to have like a very like just, I hate using the term healthy because it's so widely misconstrued, I feel, in this day and age, but
Yes.
a healthy like menu, and
Yes.
just space for them to be active and learn in a messy way.
Right.
Um,
I love
and
that.
so I opened a daycare, and we had 12 kids in our house from 5:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. And two of them did not go home because they were mine. And and we just focused on a lot of movement, a lot of them, figuring it out by doing it the hard way. Like we would kind of let them like fight and see like if they could figure it out, and then, connect and reflect. And um it was amazing. It was a big family. And so that was my step into entrepreneurship through the lens of health. Was I
I love
wanted
that.
I wanted to bring it there. And then from there, a gym totally like fell into our lap. And then that grew. And then COVID shut that down. And I took everything and went online. And I was like,
Here you
I'm
are.
going in. I'm all
Wow.
in.
Well,
Yeah.
I just want to put a pin back on something you said. The body was my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that has been culturally shoved down our throats, that the goal is the bod, it's the body. But you can't have the body, like, really, you can't have the body without doing the inner work. And I will say this, there are a lot of people that have the body and haven't done the inner work.
Hmm.
But what I guarantee you, anyone who's listening, and I guarantee you, there is something going on inside their body that they're not aware of, that they can't hear and see because they haven't done the work. And that thing that's going on in their body will come out eventually. I know somebody who did a lot of body work, a lot of bodybuilding. Clearly, there was stuff in there that wasn't done and then had to have a kidney removed, had kidney
Hmm.
failure. So that's what I mean. Like, energetically, you got to do the work because it's all a spiritual piece. Everything going on in the body, there's so much going on in there. And sometimes we don't see it, we can't hear it. And then sometimes we don't pay attention to it. Like, I'll just tell you, TMI, y'all, but I talk about my poop all the time with Kinde. I'm like, it's all about my poop. What's my poop doing? And if my poop is not doing what it's supposed to do, then there's something not right inside.
Yes. Yes.
So, because that's one of the indicators that I have for my body to tell me what's happening on the inside. And
Mhm.
so often we're not educated, we don't understand. And hopefully we'll have some time to get into some things because I would love to talk about and we'll get back to this spiritual and peace, but I would also love to talk about, because you taught me so much about, there I was trying to diet. I wasn't even trying to diet, but I was like fasting and trying to not eat so much, only to have you tell me, girl, you are not eating enough. And your body is never going to lose the weight you want to lose because you're fucking not eating enough and it's in
Mhm.
starvation mode. And I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. And you're not eating enough protein. Like, your protein sucks. And I'm like, really? Oh, all these things that people don't understand. You need protein, a lot of it, in order for your hormones to function properly. And you
Mhm.
need calories. And then you go on these dumb apps and you're like, oh, yeah, I want to lose X amount of pounds by this date. I weigh this much and I'm this tall. And it's like, yeah, eat 1,150 calories a day, 1,250 calories a day. And I'm here to say that Kindy's going to tell you wrong.
Uh-huh.
Like, and because then, okay, you might lose the weight overnight, but I promise you, you're not going to keep it off. You're not going to
Yeah.
keep it off. And then I also want to just throw in here really quick. Y'all, I've been working with Kindy for how long's it been? 6 months?
Mhm.
6 months now. I've actually gained weight, haven't lost any weight, but I've lost, I think, I don't know, 4 inches. And I got,
Mhm.
oh, those that are watching, you can see my muscles in my arms. I got muscles. Um,
Flex check.
yeah, flex check. It's working. They look really big in the camera. That's weird.
I think there's more definition than last week.
I think so, girl. I'm telling you, I've been working.
Look
I'm
at
like, I
that.
know. I'm like, flex. Okay,
Let's
so,
go.
um, yeah. So for those listening, like, if you're thinking that eating less a day and fasting all the time, like Kindy was also like, you're not gonna fast, Tara. Your fasting is when you're sleeping. That's your body fasts while you're sleeping. And I'm not saying fasting is bad because fasting is okay. But what I will say, and really why I brought Kindy on here and why I feel it's so important, is you need to hire somebody who will take the time to listen to you, who will understand your body and what's going on. And given that she's a nurse and has that background, it's amazing. But you really need to understand your body because not it's not a one size fits all, even in fitness and health. My
Mhm.
body does not work as a vegan. My body does not work in keto. My body used to work really well in Whole 30, but I'm learning now that I'm on the other side of menopause, it's not working. So now I'm
Mhm.
doing like a macro situation. And I really wanted to bring her on here because it is a spiritual journey. It is a spiritual process. It's not, I'm going to go on Instagram and this dude or this chick are telling me to do this. So I'm just going to do it. And then, oh, there's these wall booty apps and whatever. And I'm going to do some wall routine for the next 24 days and my ass is going to look like that. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. And you have to stop
No.
paying attention to all that. You have to really stop and figure out, and I'm going to say, because I work in the realm of genetics, there's a lot of genetics involved in this. And there's
Mhm.
a lot of stuff around your blood type involved in this. And I just learned that there's an actual gene that is the exercise gene. And if you don't have it, and you're somebody that you're trying to do all this exercise and you're not getting results, it's because you don't have the exercise gene. I just learned about that. And we won't go into that because I think there's a lot I don't know and there's like things, but it's so like this is how much I've learned with you is I was
Mhm.
doing everything wrong for me, just for me. And I bet you coach me different than you coach your other clients because
Mhm.
all of us have different body types. All of us have different levels of stress. A lot of my issues is stress related.
Mhm.
And you know, when we're talking about my poop, everything else can be great and it's just stressing out my poop, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
stressing
True.
out my little intestinal walls. And that will cause oxidation and that will cause a lot of other internal issues that we're really not aware of. And unless you're really listening to your body, you have no clue what's going on in there. And it's easy to, maybe this will be a good segue to go into what you want to talk about. It's easy to stop listening to your body when you have so much on social media telling you what you should or shouldn't do. There's
Mhm.
also all these companies, buy this meal prep organization or whatever, and do this and don't do that. And oh, that's now bad for you. Oh, but this is really good for you. Eat tons of carbs. No, don't eat enough of this carb. And I will say that too, as I wasn't eating enough carbs. Both you and my provider were like, girl, you need to eat some rice. You need to eat
Yeah.
some rice. Because your
Yeah.
shit's gonna start breaking down, you know? So
Yeah.
it's it's and then people are like, oh, but I'm on the low carb diet and I've lost all this weight. Well, yeah. And is it going to come back? I bet you it'll come back. And if it doesn't, you might have things going on that you're not paying attention to. And I
Mhm.
get a lot of blood work done. So I feel like every 3 to 6 months, I'm getting my blood drawn to make sure everything's working. But I'm going to stop there and hand it over to you because that was a lot. But really, there's this spiritual component. Like, are you in tune with your body? Are
Mhm.
you listening? What are you saying to your body? So many people don't even know what they're
Mhm.
saying to their body, or what are you lying to yourself about your body?
Mhm.
So I'll have you share about that.
I think it's hard to, at least for me, like one of the biggest breakthroughs I had was actually having validation that hunger was a good thing.
Mm,
um, because we're taught that I mean, through diet culture, there's this, you're trying not to be hungry because you don't want to eat, right? Less calories means fat loss. And so there's this whole try not to be hungry, or the goal is not to be hungry, or eat just enough to make the hunger go away, or drink water when you're hungry. Like there's all this kind of stuff, which isn't inherently like, if your stuff is dialed in, and you're in a place where you can be really aggressively attacking fat loss, some of those concepts are able to be used. But for people who don't have the basics nailed, that stuff can be very, very like it causes a
detrimental.
lot of problems. Yes,
Yes.
yes. So I think there's a big gap in connection to yourself and connection to your body, because we're basically being taught to override our own physiological cues,
And
which
I
will make.
just want to add, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to add really quick because I think this is important. When you and I started working together, you said, I'm going to up your calories to 2,400 or 2,000 or something like that. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm going to be like rolling out the door next week. And I will tell y'all that I gained a little bit of weight. I did. And I just kept thinking to myself, this is bad. I am eating like it was to the point where I'm like, I don't even know how to eat this much. Like this is a lot. And she was like, just trust me. This is what you got to do because we have to fix what's not working in your body. And I literally heard the voice in my head say, just trust the process. It's going to work. And
Mhm,
then once she had me eating that many calories for a certain amount of time, and I was able to get my little graph in the yellow or mostly all in the yellow, which we could talk about that later, then only then did she say, okay, now we can bring you back down.
mhm. I think there's so much like there's so much to learn there because you realize like, oh, I'm not really gain like it's a pound or two or whatever it is, but it's like, okay, but like perspective shift, like you're eating 2,200 calories and you're not gaining weight. Like
Right.
you're just maintaining. And people
Yes.
are like, oh, all I
Yes.
could think about was the fact that you told me to do this and the scale wasn't moving. I'm like, right, because you're brainwashed to think that like every single little thing has to just be about that.
Yes.
So it's like that people won't even notice that they're eating all that food and that they're not gaining weight,
No. Nope.
or they won't notice that they feel better until I ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just very easy to be hyper focused and hyper fixated on the scale because that is the goal when there's all these other little pieces that have to click into place first. And so there's a lot of like disconnect that comes from just diet culture and society. I think the other big one that is super interesting when it comes to just like listening to your basic needs as a human that we don't really learn about is, societally, women are, we come in last, right? We take care of everyone else and we're there to make sure
Right.
that, things flow correctly. And, a lot of moms, it's well, I didn't think about myself and I didn't plan my meals. I just eat my kids' leftover chicken nuggets or
Right.
whatever. And so it's really, connecting back to that too, where like you're a whole like human on your own.
Yes.
And like let's like take ownership over that and make
Yes.
yourself your own plate.
Yes.
Um, because that is a very natural instinct as well. We don't lack that when we're young. We want to have our needs met. We want to get what
Expected.
we right.
Yeah.
We want to be taken care of. And then it's that transition into like womanhood. I feel like even women who don't have kids tend to do this
You
is
stand in the kitchen and you eat your food because you're running out of time. You
mm-hmm.
learn to eat within 3 minutes. You're like shoveling down your food. You're
Yep.
not digesting. You're not chewing. Yeah.
Yep. So there's that component too, to just like give people validation and permission to matter, to make their own plate, to sit down, to just take care of themselves because they're worthy,
Right.
not for a goal, just because. And
Right.
so some of those pieces, even though the goal is to change your body and take care of your body, it it really is that kind of like spiritual concept of self that will validate and give permission for someone to even like take those steps.
That you're
So
important.
yeah,
You're important. We
yeah,
forget that we're important
right. And I
because
think
we're seen more as like the number that you are, the report that's due, the work that you're supposed to have done, or the deadline that you have, or the kids that you have to feed, and the kids that you have to clothe, and they have to get them to school, or the partner that you have to whatever the agreements are there. The we become the to do
mm-hmm,
rather than the to be
mm-hmm.
or
It's
who I be. We just
yeah,
become the to do. I'm the to do, to do, to do, to do. I'm doing, I'm doing, I'm doing, I'm doing, I'm doing. And then you become unimportant.
yeah. And it's that concept is exactly what happens to people in their relationships. And it happens in like their self-care and their body too, right? And your body isn't a checklist. Because if
No.
you treat it like a checklist, you get checklist results. You get yo-yo, you get I don't understand this, I don't feel connected to it, it doesn't feel meaningful, and then you quit and then you restart and you can't figure out like how does this work? And so when we don't get connected to the thing, the goal just becomes impossible. Like
Yes.
it really, really does. And if you do get there, you can't maintain it.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy when you stop and think about it. But
It's fascinating. And
yeah.
I'll say too, when you were saying, and I think it was 2,200. It was the goal at the time. And then the voice that I kept hearing in my mind was, in 2 weeks, you will see the change. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking, that's a fucking long time. I just got myself down to 168. Are you fucking kidding me? She's telling me to eat more money, more food. And 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 I'll tell y'all, I'm 5'6.5". I weigh, I think last time I checked the other day was 100 and I was right at 170. And if people looked at me, they would not know that they would be like, 170, how do you weigh 170?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of it's all muscle now, which is great. But before that, it was not muscle.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not even worried of whether or not I ever lose weight. What I focus on now is inches, but more so how I feel in my body.
Mhm.
And so much to the point of um, I can now tell Kinde when because we speak weekly, I can now tell her I didn't eat enough protein and my workout was really hard, or
Mhm.
I ate too many carbs, or I now know in my body because I track my food, which some people would say, "Oh my God, you track your food? That's so stupid." And blah, blah, blah. Because I used to really fight against tracking food, but it's fun for me to track food now. And I find that it's fun to figure out, did I eat enough protein today? How are my fats? What are my carbs looking like? Do I have enough calcium in my body? That's
Mhm.
literally the game I play now. And one might say that's so OCD, but for me, it's fun because I can feel it in my
Mhm.
physio system. I feel if I go to work out that I didn't eat enough calories the day before. It's
Mhm.
mind blowing. And it never used to be like that. And
That's
now
just
I,
like such an elevated self-awareness. And I think
yes,
validation that comes from that, I just, we get so invalidated our whole lives about
yes,
everything, don't we?
everything,
And
everything. Yes,
like we get invalidated and we get disconnected. And it's just
yes,
like, go do the doings.
yes,
And you're like, but I feel stuff. And they're like, nope,
yes.
doesn't
Don't
matter.
feel. Yeah,
Just go
just
do the
keep
doings.
doing.
And so you're like literally like, okay, don't feel my feelings, don't feel my body, don't just shove it all. And it's like, okay, but if you don't get connected to that, like there's no freedom coming your way. There's zero freedom coming your
None. And I will say that in my logging, I feel freedom in my logging. It doesn't feel like a chore. And at one time in my life, it was a true chore. And it
way.
doesn't feel that way. It feels like I have the freedom to understand what's happening in there,
Yeah.
and I have the freedom to change what I need to change because I'm the one who says I want my body to look a certain way, but it
Mhm.
can't look away if I don't really understand what's going on. And we'll also, I want to talk about, and I want to bring this in because this goes back to more of the spirituality piece. There was a point when I was working with Kinde where I was getting ready to get on a weekly call. And I want to say, was this in January or December? I don't remember. Maybe it was January.
It was January.
I was getting ready to get on a call with her, and I talked about this in my episode of being in the gap, and my brain was doing this thing. My brain was making her wrong and really pissed off and wanted to be mad at her. And so when I saw that my brain was doing that, I was like, oh shit, I'm on the verge of a big breakthrough. And there's something coming up in my body because I want to be pissed off at her on this call. And I want to tell her to I'm quitting. And there's something going on in my body. And I could tell, like, I came onto the call and I was so angry. And I shared in that episode about when I'm angry, it means I'm scared because
Mhm.
there's something coming up that I'm about to see or realize within me, and I don't want to realize it. And what was coming up for me is that I wasn't being truthful with myself, with my food, and my I was doing the exercise. I was doing the exercise work. I was going to the gym 3 4 days a week doing that, but I wasn't being truthful with my food, and I was struggling. And there was something else, like I can see it. There was something about my body. Like I didn't want to do it. It was going to be hard. That's all that's coming up for me right now. There's something else that's about to shift because I can feel it. I'm like, oh, it's happening again. Because I really feel we're at this next level. But I was resisting the work. I was
Uh-huh.
resisting the work. And so what I did is I called myself out. I told her on the call, I'm resisting the work. I want to be mad at you. I don't want to be on this call. and I was about to just like cancel. And she laughed at me, like, ah. And I'm thinking, yeah, fuck that. I'm all mad. And then I broke down in tears and I had a good cry. I called myself out because this is where we were hitting that spiritual piece.
Yeah.
It wasn't about just the doing. The doing wasn't going to get me the result. I had to look at what is it I'm resisting about my body? And I hated the way my body looked because when I was younger, I had a great body and didn't even know I had a great body then. I hated my body then.
Yeah.
Okay. And there I was, whether I'll go ahead and share this now. Oh, this scares me to share. So, yeah, so I was a dancer. Yep, I was a dancer on stage, the kind for money for 7 years of my life. And I had a body that even then I didn't like my body then.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that body was 125 pounds
Oh,
and I
man.
didn't like it then. I'm 170 pounds today. I hated my body then and thought there was something wrong with it then. And that story from there was still living today.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to share all that with Kinde that I don't like my body. I don't like it after having a child. I hate all this weight I'm holding in the middle. I also had a very abusive childhood. There's like back fat that is like tied to that abuse. There
Mm-hmm.
was middle fat, which is tied to sexual abuse. There were all these pieces and these patterns from my young years still attached inside of my cellular structure of my body. And
Mm-hmm.
people, if you don't think that's a possibility, trust me. And hey, you may be one of those people where you have the rock solid body, but if you haven't done that work, I promise you there's something going on internally that will show up one day that you're not paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to. And so that was the day where the shift was. And the other piece is I recently took updated photos for Kindy in the app and I was blown away at what my body looked like in December to what my body looks like today. And I wish I could show them here on. I would be embarrassed to show people, but I'm so proud because I was like, oh my God, my
Yep.
body looks 1,000 times different.
Mm-hmm.
And that seeing that transformation is what gave me even more fuel right now to really hone in that next level and the
Mm-hmm.
importance of that next level. But it took uncovering a lot of those pieces. And I guarantee even just sharing on this episode today, some of the things I'm sharing is going to have me then jump it to the next level because I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming clean with things that I don't want to talk about or I don't want to say. Like I want to say, oh yeah, sexually abused and physically abused and all that stuff is stored in my body. But on an energetic level, it has been
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I'm trying to hide something I'm afraid to show or share or be proud of, which is my body.
Mm-hmm. Or just be able to take the pen back and overcome,
Yeah.
and really get on the other side of. And that's scary too.
Yes.
Like how do I look in here and rewrite this? Oh, scary stuff.
Right? Rewrite
And
it.
and without the right tools, it's not even possible because through the lens of dieting, you don't get empowered like that. You
Mm-mm.
don't get connected to your body's actual power like you do when you lift weights and fuel it correctly. When you actually take care of your body the way that it's and use it the way that it's supposed to be used, in just like a physical setting, in a fitness setting, it's incredible the way, like the momentum that can come from that when you pair the nutrition and the fitness together. Like it is so transformative and it actually gives you the strength to go in there and rewrite the bullshit that has
Mm-hmm.
happened to you.
Mm-hmm. Because the body is a temple. I mean, that's so
Oh.
cliche to say, but it really is. Even when I listen to you talk about it right now, all I see the body and I see this like triangular pyramid, which is funny now because if you look at the pyramid, the food triangle today, the fuck they're putting on it is like, I don't even know. Cracker Jacks as the number one thing to eat, right? It's like
Yeah.
crazy. But the I see the body literally as a triangle and I see this beautiful light grid around it, amplifying every cellular structure in the body.
Mhm.
because it's the temple. But when I look at it through the lens of my old view of body and how I hated it, I see that beautiful lit up triangle with all these black spots,
Mhm.
like black spots. And those black spots or those black portions of the grid are those old stories that can be rewritten, that can be shed, that can be acknowledged and released. Because a lot of times we've even forgotten that we feel a certain way about ourselves or we can't hear it. And it's so
Mhm.
subliminal in the background. And it could be something that your parents said, your sibling said, a teacher said, you
Mhm.
know, and you don't even know that it's hidden in there and
Yeah.
it's running a show.
It's so it's so complex too because there's pain there.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's pain, there's shame, there's guilt, there's judgment, and it's really, really hard to create an empowering transformation with those energies present. And so it really is just like going through with a fine tooth comb and finding that. Like the resistance, that's why I laughed at you when you were
Yeah.
like, I'm mad. I was like, I know. I knew this was coming because that it is. It's painful, but it's like those gaps, like it's cleaning the black spots off. It's getting
Yes.
rid of them, you know?
Yes.
It's healing those because if you don't, then even if you do get there, which there is no there, but if you do get there, you're still going to feel this other weight.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't consciously acknowledge that it's there, it will either manifest as a physical like illness,
Yep.
or you will just never really feel how you were meant to feel.
Right.
And you don't even know how good it can be.
You don't even
Like,
know what that feel is, right?
right. So you think you're okay, but you're not. You have no idea. And so it's wild. But those stories, without like understanding that they're there, without understanding that like and addressing that pain in and there's like body pain and stories and then there's food pain and stories, like there's all like, and so until you have the truth and you really get connected back to the truth of who you are and the truth of what your body really needs, like to me that's what gives like a full transformation. It's
100%. Yeah.
because any of it without the other parts, it isn't what you really wanted. It's not what you're sensing is possible. Because I think we all have that sense of like, if I lose body fat, I'll be happier, right? Which is true, but it's so much more than that. Like there's so much more juice in there.
Yes,
Than,
because if you lose the body fat without doing the work, it'll never be enough.
right.
It'll never be enough. You're looking for, okay, I lost the body fat, but what else? What else? What else? What else? It's never enough. And if there's anything contextually what this show is about and what my purpose in life is when you are accessing your rawest and purest truth of who you are, only
Mhm,
then can you be your full self-expression. Only
mhm,
then can you live your most radiant life. Is
mhm,
when you are accessing your truth. But you have to dive in and you have to do that work and you have to clean off those dark spots. And sometimes they're really scary to look at
mhm.
because they don't feel good.
No. And I think there's a level of acceptance that's really difficult too when you realize that something that was said to you when you were 6 just ran your life for 30 years or however long.
Yeah.
Like someone goes and tries out for the basketball team and gets cut, or their dad's at the game and they're like, oh, you're really not athletic. And what does that do for the rest of your life? That story is there because
Yep.
you take that as an absolute truth when it's
That's
not. It
truth.
just meant that you didn't know how to move yet,
Yes.
yet,
Yes.
right? And so you made that mean something about you and then lived it instead of understanding that we can all learn to move athletically. We all
Yeah.
can. Are
Yeah.
some more gifted than others? Yeah, but that's true in all facets.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you can't be really freaking good at something, even though.
No.
So those stories, it's incredible how the brain works that way.
You do a whole episode just on that. And I am so guilty as a parent. Like, I know that there's things I've said, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. He's gonna
Mhm.
hold that forever. And
Mhm.
it's
I
it's
know.
heartbreaking and it's hard, but it's the truth because the brain only the brain only knows that what it sees is true.
Mhm.
Unless you tell or train the brain otherwise, everything it sees is truth.
Mhm.
Therefore, you become what you see, you become what you hear, you become what you eat.
Mhm.
And
And
I
the
think,
soul's like, no.
yeah, and what I've over the last, I don't know how many years I've really honed in on this was really understanding. And when it was also really set in stone when I was reading or listening to Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, or The Belief of
Oh.
Biology, but I don't remember how it goes, but amazing book because it just rooted even more the internal body. Every cell of the body is this community of worlds and lives and beings
Mhm.
coexisting and operating. And then we'll go drink the big gulp, smoke the cigarette, do the drugs, that whatever it is, eat the freaking cake with tons of processed sugar, and we'll flood our inner community. It's and I hate saying it like this because I eat some of those things. I'll do that, but it's like I'm shitting all over my inner community.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is really this like and and this will be another topic that we can talk about another time, but consciousness lives on the cell wall.
Mhm.
So if people want to know where consciousness comes from, it's on every cell wall. Consciousness. So these cells in our body are responding and speaking to everything in our environment. And we
Mhm.
live as if it's not a temple.
Mhm.
We live as it's
It's
just in my body. Just eat
yeah,
what I want. I'm gonna have some whatever. I think I eat that. I'll be fine.
it's wild, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes. Yes.
It's crazy.
And I love what you do with food with your kids and your family. And because it starts there. I struggle. I watch my kid. He just like goes for the sugar 24/7. And I'm like, oh. And I'm trusting it's just a phase, and I'm like, you need a fat, you need a protein, you need a carb. And he'll get like it's funny. What does he think is a carb? It's so funny the things that he thinks is a carb. And I'm like, that's not a carb. Or he'll get a carrot and say, this is protein. I'm like, so not protein, but it's cool.
But eat
I'm
it.
trying. Yeah. And I try, like I'm trying to help him out, but it's a journey. It's a journey. And it is really, I think, something to connect that spiritual piece
Hmm.
to the physical piece and
Yeah.
the importance of it.
I think that's where my gap was too, because I got my physical transformation and I was just like empty. And so
Mm.
that was kind of my path to where I'm at now.
What
Is
did the
it was
emptiness feel
all
like? What did it feel like? The emptiness.
well, I got the well, first of all, the scale really jacked me up because I was heavier than what I was told I should be. So like my diet culture brain was like I should be 105 pounds. And so I would starve myself to 105 pounds. I have a lot of willpower. Um, I'm 5'2" for context. It's very unhealthy looking.
Yeah.
Um, and then I would binge. And so I didn't realize like the dieting was creating the binging in that scenario. That's not the case for everyone. Some people's binging comes to fill an emotional void or emotional pain. I did that with my alcohol. So, but the for me, the binging came from the dieting. So it was like override those cues for hunger for so long and do all the workouts and work really hard. And then, you can only override for so long before you binge. And I would just like, I'd gain 20 pounds and that 20-pound swing, I have a kind of tiny frame. So like
Yeah.
that was like pretty crazy. Um, so that was happening. When I learned what I know and what I teach, I just figured it all out on my own and then kind of just put this program together and I did it for 8 weeks and um I weighed 124 pounds. And I remember standing on the scale, looking in the mirror, looking at the number, looking in the mirror. Like I just could not wrap my brain around the fact that like I had like visible abs, like I was jacked. Like I looked like the girls on the I don't actually know if I looked like any of the girls because the girls like that are not like put in front of us in society, but I was stronger than all the people in the gym. I could out pull up anybody. My deadlift went up by 75 pounds. Like I felt like a freaking badass. But
Mm-hmm.
the number, I couldn't pull my jeans up over my butt because I actually had a butt. Like I'm supposed to fit in these size zero jeans. Like I just like it was so insane. So I kind of like came to terms with that. I was like, okay, well, I like this more than that. Like the numbers, I guess, like whatever, because this is really freaking cool. So I kind of just like decided to get over that. And then I just remember being so anxious still, so insecure, so just like kind of lost. There was no one around me embodying confidence. There was no one around me like showing me what it would look like to be able to like take a compliment and be assertive about my needs and what I want, but not be considered a bitch. Like there was just all these like weird nuances that are, also positioned at us as women.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like I'm still not her. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have this now, but like like this isn't something's missing. And then that was kind of like the next journey that I went on was trying to figure that piece out. Like why do I still feel like this? Why am I still anxious? Why do I feel weird? I didn't even know what boundaries were then, but like I just didn't know how to hold my own space.
And what did you discover in that process, in that journey?
Um, that's when the fun stuff started. That's when I started to realize I needed to change my career. I need to figure out my purpose in the world and
Oh, I
actually own it.
froze.
Oh no.
There you are. Okay, there you
There we
go.
go.
Like we froze. So, yeah. So, what did you discover?
That is the point where I realized that I needed to figure out like what I actually wanted to do professionally with my life and just trust myself. And that was kind of like going against the grain of like, what my parents said was right and what um society said was right and all of that. And then there was just like really understanding that it's okay for things to be messy. I don't have to be perfect all the time. I don't have to have all the answers all the time. And getting into just the world of kind of like the inner healing and understanding why I act how I act and then deciding if that's actually me or if that's a story. And I got into this whole take the pen back thing. And that's actually, I used to greet my audience all the time as what up BABs all the time. I still say it sometimes. And that was my era of finding Kinde and like stepping into badassery and deciding that I was going to do things that I wanted to do because I believed in them and just like leading other women out of this hole of like codependency and, lacking a sense of self and be able to bring that total transformation to the table because for me, even getting the body didn't bring me that. It will bring a level of confidence for sure, but I feel as though for me, getting there without that, I still just was like, okay, but now what?
Right,
So
right. Is that all
I
there
don't know if
is?
that directly answers your question, but it was a very messy, long 6 year, and you come out of that and you're like, was that like depression, a spiritual awakening, or like a midlife crisis? I don't know, but I'm glad it's over.
I think it's just called life. I think it's just life, right? And we live like, I think so many people live as if they're the only one with that messy. And life
Yeah,
is just messy. Life
yeah.
is life is not black and white. It is really gray. So many shades of gray. And everybody's journey is different and unique. And I really have come to this place that if we could all just allow everybody to have their own journey, and stay out of their way. It
Yeah.
ain't your business. Stay in your own lane.
Mhm.
Just allow people to have their journey because we all came here to experience our own individual journey. Um, but and I know we probably have to wrap this up soon, but I I would love for you to share, really your direction, how you help people, what your big mission or like what do you want to leave people with and by the way, I'm going to give all of you information in the show notes of how to reach Kinde. I highly encourage you to look into her programs, hire her, work with her because she's amazing. But talk more about what it is you do for us and how you give back and how you support us in that connection of the spiritual piece to the physical piece in the health and well-being. Because if anyone's just coming to you like, just help me get skinny or help me get fit, it's then you're missing the boat. You called the
Mhm.
wrong girl, and you might as well, you know, that's when you want to work the program your own way instead of working it the way it was designed to work. And I'll say this too. Only recently have I really started working the program as it was meant and designed to be, and now I'm like, oh, I'm seeing results really fast now.
Uh-huh.
But because I showed up with all my shit, like I'm doing it my way. I'm gonna do it my way, people. I'm doing it my way. But the program is designed a particular way so that you get the results that you want. But that's also part of the spiritual journey, right?
Mhm.
Is getting out of your own way. You have a method that works. And if I can adopt that method the way you've set it up,
Mhm.
if I could get over all the shit that stops me from resisting that,
Mhm.
then the results come. And again, that's back to that spiritual piece.
Yeah. And I think that became my favorite piece because I mean, let's be honest, like I don't believe that women are overweight because they're lazy. I believe that you're overweight because you don't have the right tools and you're disconnected from so many things in your life, and
I love that.
yourself is the biggest one.
Yeah.
So that's just what I believe. There and people who have trouble doing the work, it's not that there's nothing wrong with the person. There's
No.
something in their mind that's blocking them.
Yeah.
And that very quickly became my favorite part. And I think because of what my journey has looked like, I really understand that because I did it backwards. I didn't do it all at the same time. And so that's why I give a lot of grace in my coaching containers because I didn't I didn't have a spiritual transformation alongside of a physical transformation at all. I had a physical transformation and then a spiritual transformation.
Mm-hmm.
They do interplay back and forth. There were things that happened for me spiritually to be able to transform my body. And so there is no order. It's
Mm-hmm.
different for everyone. It can
Everybody.
be done in tandem, it can be done separately, but there are parts of both because it's a whole person. So there are parts of both that are going to interplay together. And if you just hire someone who's wants to help you grow a nice peach, well, that person might not have those experiences. They might not understand you to the depth. And like I was saying about my kids, if I don't understand them at a certain level, I can't help them understand themselves. I can ask, like, what do you need? But if I don't know, I can't guide them.
Right.
And so like for me, I think that's my greatest superpower is seeing those gaps and being able to like tactfully guide people through them so that they can come away with something that's gonna last them. I have a big passion for women truly believing that, well, number one, that they're worthy and capable because because for our entire lives, I feel like everything says that we're not,
Mm-hmm.
that we are able to prioritize ourselves alongside of everything else, everything and everyone else, and it will actually make those things way better. And the capacity that you show up to those things with and those people with will be way deeper and way better. And that leadership is not reserved for anyone special. It's for everyone. And we
Mm-hmm.
are all leading ourselves and each other. And so whatever I do and embody, I am giving other people permission to do and embody. And we're all doing that all the time
Yes.
for each other, for our kids, for our spouses or significant others.
Yep.
And it is a journey. And you do have to have a level of surrender to be able to accept that it's going to be messy and figuring out what I look like as this version of myself. I'm going to mess it up and I'm going to have to be vulnerable and I'm going to have to be open to, apologizing and owning my shit. And that's scary.
Yes.
And so in like as a whole, like those are three like really core concepts that I really try to do and be myself
Mm-hmm.
and balance the do and be
Mm-hmm.
and just put it in other women's minds that they're also capable of going and walking that path.
Yeah, I think the most important piece that I heard you say was the surrender. The surrender.
Such a big theme in my life.
Because well, I think we're designed to control every outcome if we can,
Mm-hmm.
instead of allowing the unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the feminine spirit comes in, is the allowance and the grace to first acknowledge where you are, and and to be able to even just be truthful with yourself about, where am I in this very moment? Am
Mm-hmm.
I 55 pounds overweight and I'm in denial? Am I 55 pounds underweight and in denial?
Mm-hmm.
Am I overeating and pretending that I'm not? Which that's what I was doing. I was eating things I knew I shouldn't be eating, pretending I wasn't. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've become over the years an emotional eater. Where I used to starve myself when I had emotional issues. Now I'm just like, how much more can I eat? I want more sugar.
Yeah.
I want more cake, 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 cake. you know,
Yeah.
and and that's it's that surrendering to the truth.
Ugh.
Where
Yeah.
am I right now at point zero beginning? Where am I right now? Or you could be somebody that's like, oh yeah, I exercise, and you never exercise. You think that once a month exercise, oh, I exercise. It's,
Yeah.
you really have to surrender and then tell the truth to yourself and on yourself. and
Yeah.
and that's where the rubber could meet the road. And then you have to be willing to put the car parts together, start the engine, and roll it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it any other way. And
And
go ahead.
it's important to have a coach that's just in the passenger seat as the GPS,
Yes.
not driving the car
No.
or handing you a map and sending you off on your own. Because that's
Right.
not how we learn to drive. We learn to drive with someone we trust in the passenger seat. And
Yes.
a lot of people have been given a body and never been connected to it or been taught how to take care of it. And well, I could almost go as far to say have been given a human. Like
Yes.
you've been given your whole self and never been taught how to. That's how I felt. It
And
was
now you're
like,
having more humans. You're
yeah,
having more
and then you have
humans.
more human, and it's the blind leading the blind. But it's so true, like when your car's broke, you take it to the mechanic and they diagnose it and they fix it. And it's like your
Yes.
body gets broken, you go to the doctor and you get a pill. And it's like,
Yes.
what?
Well, and I
So
just want to say those humans that we then have are definitely here to remind us of the work we have to do, because
oh
they will be the first one to call us out and be like, could you take a look at your shit? I'm just doing what you told me to do, or I'm just doing what you do.
yeah. I thought you said we couldn't do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you for calling me out.
I love it when my son uses my stuff back on me. I was like, that's my line. He's like, yeah, well, you say it to me, so I'm going to say it right back to you. I was like, dang it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're not allowed to use
Great.
that on me. I'm an adult. I'm an
The
adult.
great, yeah,
Yeah.
the
whole
greatest
nother
teachers.
yeah, a whole nother episode. I feel like they're only here to be our teachers. But yeah, I think all of what you shared is really, really beautiful. And I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for taking me on, and also thank you for your journey so that you could give back to me what you've gone through, because I've worked with a lot of people, and I've just gotten so much out of this journey, and that's why I continue to go. And it wasn't enough for me just to do it the one time around. It was like, oh no, I got to keep going. I have to keep going. And it is now, I will say, I'm very vigilant now about working out here at home, which that was something I couldn't do. It was
Mhm.
not ingrained in me. And I worked out last night, and now I go in and I move my little workouts. If I can't do it today, I do it tomorrow. And it's it's a habit and a practice that is becoming now my lifestyle, which was not before. And I am surprised at it, you know? And that's a win that we can add on Monday on our call.
Yes.
Um, and I I'll say this, I canceled my other gym membership for now. Um, for various reasons and injuries and things, and recognizing that as much as I loved being there and doing those workouts, it might not. And here's the other thing that some of us have to surrender to is, at my age, in my middle 50s, coming approaching my middle 50s, certain workouts that I love to do, I just can't do.
Mm-hmm.
My body is saying, no, you have to do it differently. And that's a whole new level of surrender. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something we can talk about another time, because that is a
That's
whole new
another just
level.
very conditioned. It's got to be the hardest workout. It's got to be this. And yeah, there's a lot there too of just like letting that be
And
what
that's
it is.
hard. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really hard to let go of that this week and really call one on myself, because I've gotten injured, not because anybody there was telling me to do anything. I was doing it to myself because I'm very competitive. Like, oh, I gotta do more weight. And it's like, oh, I just blew out my knee and I didn't even do anything.
Crap.
It's just working out. And it's like, yeah, but a couple times you had way too much weight going on there, girl, because I wanted to keep up.
Yeah.
And it's just, at the end of the day, it's just my body really responds to the workouts we're doing. I
Hmm.
mean, and it's not even intense. I mean, they're intense, but not like what I was doing. And my body is totally responding in a whole new way. And so, yeah, I think you have to surrender to that too. So, but this is long, I know, but this has been so much fun chatting with
So
you.
good. So
I
much good stuff.
I hope I haven't taken you away from another meeting, but um, is there anything more you'd like to leave with our folks listening?
I think the only other thing I'll say is that don't let other people dictate the path you take that is going to be right for you. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of things out there, you know, that were shoved down our throat about the way we needed to look. And then a few years later, the body positivity people came in hot and they were like, no, you're fine just the way you are. And what I want you to know is that you can love yourself and want to grow and change at the same time.
Yes.
And a lot of times when we have pain around something, it's easier to either hyper respond and try to attack it or ignore it and say it's fine. And what you got to do is kind of come in the middle
Middle.
and say, let's approach this from a place of, I want to heal and solve it. Right. So you can decide to love yourself now and that's why you want to get better, or you just decide that you're going to take care of yourself so that you can learn to love yourself. Again, there's no order that these things happen in,
Mm-mm.
but there's hope. And and when you approach it from that place of like deeper level healing and wanting to grow and become the best version of yourself, as long as you have an aligned strategy, you can't fail, you can't mess it up,
No.
because you just got to go, you just got to do it.
Yes. And when you want to heal, it's that void. It's that
Mm-hmm.
void. And culturally, and especially social media, we're so good at like swinging far left or
Mm-hmm.
far right. Like, no, it's individual for every human being. There's pain in there. What's your
Mm-hmm.
pain? What's your
Yep.
pain? And everybody's pain's different.
Yep.
Everybody's pain
So
and journey is
if
different.
if anyone's an extreme, if anything that you're seeing feels extreme, that means it's way to the right or way to the left.
Yes.
You gotta go to the middle, girl.
Yes.
Go to the middle.
Go to the middle. Oh, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time today and sharing, aspects of your life and your story and your journey. And I shared a lot of mine, and I wanted to bring Kinde on here because I've had such a profound experience on this journey, and I'm so grateful that I found you, that I get to share all of this with you and share it with others. And really, I encourage people, if you are on that journey of healing your body, whether it's from a physical aspect or just wanting the voids to be healed, then you need to reach out to Kinde, and you need to check in, and you need to, get in her Facebook group. She's got various different programs. And like I said, I'll leave all her contact information in the show notes. But yeah, just thank you for taking the time, and would you be open to coming on another time where we can talk about other aspects? Like, because we didn't even get to the
Or
food and
I know
hormones, and like there's so much to talk about.
so much good stuff.
There is. So I hope I
Oh,
can have you on another time. But thank you. I love you so
thank
much.
you. This was amazing, and it's been a pleasure. This and just working together. I enjoy, you let me be in my zone of genius. So
Yes, you
I
are.
appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming on this healing adventure today. If you're starting to see how everything is falling into place for you, consider rating the show and sharing it with one of your friends. Keep that spirit alive and join me next week, same place, same time. Have a great week.